All right, welcome back to another episode of the Psychopedia podcast. I'm your co-host, Hank Sinatra, and here with my alliterative queen.
Investigator Slater, son.
She's not the rat queen anymore. She's the alliteration queen.
Thank you. You're far too kind. That was
Ova.
for you.
I know. Thank you. You're far too kind. Well, listen, hello, hi, welcome to the episode. If you're listening for the first time, welcome to the party.
So happy to have you, freak.
If you're listening for the 100th time, welcome home.
Freak.
You're here.
You're all
We
freaks.
love it. All of you are appreciated from the top to the bottom, left, right, America, Australia, whatever.
Germany, Ireland.
Literally from
everywhere.
from the North Pole to the South Pole and all points between. What's going to happen right now? What's going to happen right now is Investigator Slater is going to walk me through a case, having all the information. I have none of it. I'm sitting here. I'm just like you. Okay, I know nothing about what's coming at all, and I like it that way. So.
Yeah, I don't know how you like it that way. We recorded yesterday in New York City. We had a special guest on, and I didn't know who the guest was. I had no idea what the episode was going to be about. We kind of like switched roles a little bit.
Yeah.
I showed up knowing nothing. Tank knew not everything, but
I knew
enough.
very little.
Right.
The door was cracked.
I was extremely uncomfortable driving into Manhattan. Had no idea what I was in store for. Sitting down, I was like very, very nervous in front of the guest, having no idea what he was going to come out of his mouth.
Yeah.
And then woefully underprepared when he started speaking about what he spoke about, which in my defense, I don't know that anybody would have been prepared for what he had to talk about. Really remarkable man who has endured so much.
Yeah.
My point is this. That's one and done. Like, you're never going to do that to me again. You need to tell me what episodes are going to be about, even if you plan them.
I might.
You must.
No, I might do it again.
Okay.
Just a heads up. I don't have anything planned.
Yeah.
But I can't be held to these, these rules. So listen, we're going to get into the episode. Before we do that, just a little housekeeping. If you love us and you want more of what we do here and you're just feeling unfulfilled, head on over to patreon.com/psychopediapod to get so much more stuff.
Lots of extra content over there, and it's like a little subculture.
5 episodes a month, basically, is what it works out to. We have Unhinged, we have Tankopedia once a month, Slaterpedia, which Tankopedia and Slaterpedia are actually true crime cases that we don't put on the main feed, so maybe you've heard them before, but you haven't heard them from us. And a lot of like stuff. We actually had a Patreon come out and sit in on the live episode yesterday. Nancy, a.k.a. Steve. That was fun. She was here. That episode will be out whenever
we get it edited,
with the guest comes out. And it's always nice to meet the Patreon people because it's like, we're both excited to meet.
It was really nice.
I get it. Like, I know you're excited, but I'm also kind of excited.
Oh, yeah. She came with gifts. We had gifts. It was just a really, really nice experience.
It was a big love fest. So anyway, but in regards to the Patreon, I got to read some names off because I just like giving these people attention.
Let's go.
Hitherto, but it's a 2.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Nice. Hitherto, nice. Jennifer Bellinger.
Hi, Jennifer.
What's up, Jen? Leonarda DeSopia.
Oh, yes.
Okay. Tabby Terminator.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for picking up on that one.
From the Killing for Clicks episode with Luca Magnotta. Call Me Fuck Meat. No idea what that is.
Still have no idea.
Natalie Ashton.
Hi, Natalie.
Mercury and Gatorade. That is a deep cut from a thing we put out on Patreon that was kind of like a tester pilot. So if you know what it is, cool. If you don't know what it is.
And you want to know what it is.
No, I'm not trying to like force you into going over there, but it is what it is. Like, if it doesn't make sense to you and you don't know what it is, that's why. Stab, 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 smiley face emoji. I have 2 more.
Oh, that's very good.
I know. That's from Slender Man.
No, it is not. No, that's from Killing Is My Kink. That's what Graham Dwyer in one of his text messages to Elaine O'Hara. Stab, 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 smiley face emoji. Wow. Fucking creep.
Okay, to wrap things up, grease that little fucker out of a crack. Coming off the heels of lube that fucker out of the crack, which we finally realized and heard from the people that it was about when Investigator Slater told a story about seeing a mouse stuck in a crack on a sidewalk, going inside, getting Vaseline, tools, whatever. It was dying. I mean, you are a hero.
Thank you, sir. Wow.
A rat hero. But I apparently said, what, did you grease that little fucker out of the crack?
Yeah, and it stuck.
And you didn't laugh.
Well, there was a serious story about a mouse's life being in danger.
I know, so don't get mad at me for not picking up on everything.
No,
and then
yeah.
you're going to love this Patreon name. You're going to love it harder than you've ever loved anything. Tank's pronunciation is wrong sometimes, too.
That's fantastic. I missed that one.
Yeah, sometimes I make mistakes, mistakes.
Yes, you do.
Yes, you da.
Yes, you da.
Okay, so without any further ado, because there was quite a bit of ado this episode, but we are on fire, and this is going to be a good episode, and I can just kind of tell already.
Yeah. Very interesting case.
Top 3 of all time.
I ordered a book on this case months ago.
Yeah.
Months ago. And I've been like reading it a little bit here, a little bit there, doing some research, and then the spirit moved me, and I'm like, let's just go for a full episode now.
Dibbled and dabbled.
Yeah.
And then you dove in.
Yes.
Who's the alliteration queen now?
All right, queen.
All right, so let's hear about this case.
Okay.
If you don't mind.
Amidst the neon glow in ancient temples of 1936 Tokyo, where tradition and modernity clashed on every street corner, an affair of the heart spiraled into a nightmare of lust, madness, and murder. This wasn't just another scandal in Japan's capital. It was a cultural earthquake that tore through the nation's collective psyche. At the epicenter of this seismic event stood a woman who navigated the shadowy path from geisha houses to the seedy underworld, her life shaped by trauma, longing, repression, and erotic fixation. The crime that we're going to talk about today gripped the nation, and incredibly, a century later nearly, still does. This case ignited a cultural wildfire and has inspired novels, films, and even pornography. The public simply cannot look away, because it's not every day that a geisha severs a man's penis and testicles, engages in necrophilia, and then casually carries the severed genitals around with her in her kimono.
Lorena Geisha, am I right?
You're right. This is the case of a grotesquely gory geisha named Sada Abe.
Grotesquely gory geisha.
Also known by me as the kimono-wearing killer castrator.
Wow.
Oh, I came out strong with the alliteration here.
Yeah, it's like almost too much.
Almost.
Too strong.
Being the operative word. Sada Abe was born on May 28th, 1905, and was the 7th out of 8 children born to her parents, Shigeyoshi and Katsu. Her birth was largely uneventful, though she was slow to take her first breath and had difficulty nursing with her mother. As a result, as an infant, Sada was sent away to feed and live with what's called a wet nurse, who fostered her during her first year of life, which was an arrangement that was fairly common in the families of Sada's social class at the time, which allowed the mother to focus on other responsibilities while the baby was looked after.
A wet nurse is the only difference between like a night nurse and a wet nurse is that the wet nurse breastfeeds?
Yeah, pretty big difference.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm not sure if that's even done anymore. I know that's probably a silly thing to say.
It is.
But it certainly was a thing of the past.
Yeah.
After a year, Sada then returned to live with her birth parents and experienced a mostly typical childhood aside from being speech delayed. I'm talking like very early childhood.
Yeah.
Sada's family was upper middle class and specialized in crafting traditional tatami mats in Tokyo's Kanda neighborhood, a part of the city's working class, quote-unquote, low city region. You know what a tatami mat is?
I have no idea what a tatami mat is.
So tatami mats are made from rice straw and woven rush grass. They're the traditional Japanese floor coverings that they're used for sitting, sleeping, walking.
Yeah.
The Kanda neighborhood was known for its distinctly shitamache, or downtown culture, which maintained strong ties to traditional Japanese arts and entertainment. Out of the 8 children born to Sada's parents, only 4 survived to adulthood, with Sada being the youngest. This dynamic shaped Sada's life, as you might imagine, where she was favored by her mother, yet burdened by loss, all while being expected to fulfill the traditional roles and duties imposed upon her, despite the emotional weight that she carried.
Yeah, half your siblings.
Exactly. Sada's mother hyper-focused on her, spoiled her, took tremendous pride in her beauty, and would often dress her up and show her off around Kanda. Throughout primary school, Sada's grades were not stellar, as she was less interested in academic achievement and more drawn to her musical pursuits, particularly singing and playing the shamisen, which is a 3-string traditional Japanese instrument known for its distinctive twangy sound. I feel like if you heard it, you would know it.
Yeah.
Thus, after primary school ended, so too did Sada's formal institutional education. Instead,
wait, after what grade? Third?
Primary school.
Primary school, so probably fifth.
Very young.
Wow.
Instead, Sada was being prepped and primed for marriage and began receiving sewing and calligraphy lessons from tutors who advised her and visited her at home, as these traditional skills would be expected of her by any respectable husband.
Mm-hmm.
However, tragically, as Sada was being...
Wait, I'm sorry, calligraphy.
Yeah.
She's beautiful, but can she write?
She has a really big heart, but can she sew?
Yeah, does she know script?
I mean, we're teasing, but that was definitely like,
It probably was different time, different culture,
times,
different
exactly.
Country, yeah.
Exactly. But I mean, obviously...
Actually, you know what? I'm going to take back what I said. Back then, writing was probably so important.
Yeah, there was no typing.
Yeah,
there was no iPhone.
Let me retract.
Okay. Look how you just grew in a moment.
Yeah.
That was nice to see.
Watch me bloom.
Tragically, though, as Sada was being groomed for a traditional future of marriage, her life took a devastating and violent turn when she was just 15 years old. That summer, young Sada was raped by an acquaintance, an upper-class Keio University student named Sagaragi Ken.
No class. Piece of shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This shocking and traumatic assault not only inflicted immediate physical, emotional, and psychological pain on Sada, but also profoundly and irrevocably altered the trajectory of her entire life.
Yeah, of course.
At first, feeling terrified and confused, Sada turned to her mother, Katsu, for support and guidance. But rather than comforting her distraught daughter, Katsu decided instead to confront the parents of her rapist.
Oh, good.
His parents refused to even acknowledge Katsu's existence due to her lower social standing, forget about reprimanding their son or seeking out, a way to make amends to the extent that that would even be possible.
Mm-hmm.
The idea of Sada taking legal action was essentially out of the question, as such a bold move would have drawn unwanted attention to her entire family and while subjecting Sada to social stigma, which is a very heavy burden for a young woman in a society where law enforcement and public opinion were rarely sympathetic to victims of sexual assault.
Really?
So instead of finding justice or solace or support, Sada was left to carry the weight of shame and isolation alone. Her dreams of a traditional future shattered and her sense of self-worth deeply eroded by the trauma that would haunt her for the rest of her life. Now, Sada suddenly found it difficult to establish trusting relationships, which is a common symptom of post-traumatic stress disorder that many survivors of sexual assault experience. As Sada attempted to independently process the trauma of what happened, her fear and confusion gradually transformed into blinding anger. She realized and experienced firsthand the stark double standards between men and women in Japanese society, where women were often held to rigid moral expectations that just did not apply to men. How was it fair that men could act so vile with impunity while women were held to such strict standards of virtue and propriety? As Sada grappled with these very poignant questions, she made a decision. Rather than trying to hide what happened to her and lie about no longer being a virgin, as advised by Katsu, Sada instead decided to lean into the role of quote-unquote outcast and to embrace the life of a deviant, because that's how society would have viewed her. And this rebellion against the confines of her prescribed role led her to make increasingly bold and defiant choices, including, eventually, murder and mutilation.
Yeah.
Before the life-altering attack that forever changed her, Sada had been deeply captivated by the ideal of the geisha, a symbol of beauty, skill, and cultural sophistication in Japan. So geisha, the traditional Japanese female entertainers, were not only admired for their grace and fashion, but also revered for their mastery of various Japanese arts, including classical music, dance, and conversation. The most esteemed geisha were cultural icons, akin to modern-day supermodels or silver screen actresses. They embodied the perfect blend of beauty and talent, with the very term geisha translating to mean person of skill. So gei, G-E-I, means skills, and sha, S-H-A, means person. The history of geisha in Japan dates back to the early 1600s and has evolved over centuries. By the early 20th century, including the 1930s when Sada's story unfolds, geisha continued to be respected as highly skilled entertainers. Despite Japan undergoing significant social and political changes, including increasing militarization and Western influence, geisha remained prominent figures in the entertainment districts of cities like Tokyo and Kyoto. They cater to the upper echelons of society, including businessmen, politicians, actors, artists, and Western tourists. Their popularity peaked in the 1920s with an estimated 80,000 geisha throughout Japan, entertaining guests at tea houses, banquets, and other formal events.
I have a question for you.
Yeah, and then I have a pop quiz for you.
Oh, well, do that, and then I'll ask my question.
Okay, pop quiz.
Sick, really, right now.
Which of the following statements is true? A, there are about 1,000 to 2,000 active geishas left today. B, the first geisha were actually men. C, geisha often speak in a unique dialect called Kyoto Kotoba. D, all of the above.
So there are 1,000 to 2,000. The originals were men, or they speak in a distinct dialect.
Your fucking memory, man.
Etobicoke.
Might be the most impressive thing about this podcast.
Etobicoke gets
very
nothing?
Good. Very good. Well, I was complimenting you. I'm surprised that didn't take the front seat here.
Thank you. You're right.
You're welcome.
B.
Well, kind of.
Oh, D.
Yes. All of what I said is true. But what is your question?
So I always thought, and this is maybe just like, nobody ever told me this, but I know I'm not the only one. I always thought geishas were like the equivalent of like a sex worker.
Sex worker?
Yeah.
We're getting to that. That's a very, very common misconception, I'm going to say, because that's not how geisha like originated. But that is, in many circles, what geisha became.
Oh, okay.
So you're not wrong for thinking that way. But we're going to come on to that, I think, literally right now.
Okay.
Even amidst all of the societal changes post-World War II and the rapid decline of geisha, the life of a geisha was still one of discipline and artistry. I remember researching geisha. I'm sorry, I'm just having like a flashback. You know, when I read Memoirs of a Geisha, which is a book, such an incredible book. I remember researching geisha after that. It really is interesting.
The art of or the skill of conversation is interesting because having it, if you have it, you kind of take it for granted. But when you run into someone who doesn't have it, it's like, oh, yeah, that kind of sucks for you. I'm sorry.
It's very hard. It's very hard to be in public settings, you know?
Or even social settings.
Right. I guess that's what I meant.
Yeah.
Geisha underwent rigorous training in traditional arts to perfect their skills and maintain a refined and graceful image. Ironic that I should fuck up the word graceful. They wore luxurious silk kimonos with intricate seasonal designs, tying their wide obi belts in elaborate styles to signify their rank. You can probably picture that, like big, thick belt, right? Yeah. Their makeup featured a striking white base with black and red accents around the eyes and lips that created a delicate, doll-like appearance. Yep. This look was completed with decorative hairpieces called kenzashi and traditional wood sandals, which embodied centuries of tradition and cultural artistry. Now, it's important to note, and here we go, that geisha were not inherently part of the sex industry, even though some geisha did and do indeed engage in sex work. As Japan opened up to the West, Western visitors to Tokyo's entertainment districts often misunderstood or oversimplified the distinctions between geisha and sex workers, which led to the widespread, albeit incorrect, belief that all women in these districts, including geisha, were involved in sex work. So, by the time the 20th century rolled around, the term geisha had come to encompass various women who entertained men for a living, including those who worked in brothels.
Got it. It became like a catch-all.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
Sada, who had grown up immersed in the traditions of the geisha, found herself rebelling against the very societal norms that now labeled her as damaged goods following her traumatic assault. And that was in air quotes. She began stealing money from her parents, staying out late, and frequenting the entertainment districts where her focus shifted to fashion, flirting, and partying with friends, all funded by the money she took from home, which would probably make her an influencer today.
What do you mean the money she took from home?
She stole. She was stealing from her parents and then blowing it at parties.
Oh, for some reason I thought her dad was not around anymore.
No, her dad's around.
Why? What, he didn't want to do anything about the rape?
No. The shame was hers. That's what's horrific here. You know what I mean? God. That's the double standard that ate away at her.
You know what? fucking now all of a sudden it makes sense. There's people out there, and I'm not, whatever. There's people out there who think that even if a woman or a young woman child is raped, they should have to keep the baby.
Yeah, that's just absolutely bonkers.
But that's echo of this.
I mean,
it's
of course,
echo, yeah.
This is age-old topics, And as far as we've come in the world, so much still lingers.
I know.
In the way of that, disparity between how women are treated and men and expectations, and it's bad. It's a constant battle, not to...
No, it's, I mean, I heard somebody in real life say that once. I was like, are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, and then he tried to explain. I was like, I'm not interested in your explanation. But I can't believe that it's, like I'm saying, that's like this echo in eternity of this shitty approach to life and shitty worldview of like, one group is good and powerful and should get to do everything and anything they want. And the other one kind of just like, is there for entertainment and, maybe to go out to eat with or whatever.
Exactly.
It's crazy.
Her parents, who had once invested in her singing and music lessons, dressed her in silk kimonos, and prepared her to become a respectable wife, now forced her into the role of a housemaid, hoping to curb her rebellious streak. However, this only pushed Sada further away, and after trying on her employer's kimono and jewelry, she was actually arrested and then promptly fired from that job.
Why?
Because life was not always fair. But she was, I guess the owner, accused her of fucking around in her shit.
Is that illegal?
At the time, standards were different too. Like she was in a lower class touching somebody's jewelry, and maybe she was trying to steal it and that got lost in translation, in all this. But I don't think so. I just think people were tough on the lower class.
Yeah.
Now burdened with the dual stigma of having her virginity stolen and having a police record at just 15, Sada's prospects seemed increasingly bleak. Mm-hmm. And it was at this point when her older brother, Shintaro, suggested that Sada pursue a career as a geisha, a path often seen as a respectable solution for girls perceived as wayward.
Wasn't she already kind of going towards the direction?
She was. Well, she was and she wasn't. So she always had like a thing about geisha. She was always fascinated by it, but she wasn't going in that direction. She was going in the direction of, I'm going to be a housewife. I'm going to get married.
Yeah.
Then when her trauma happened, her parents said, now you're going to be a housemaid. And now her brother's saying, okay, we're going to change course again because you're arrested and we're going to push you towards becoming a geisha. But instead of embracing the disciplined life of a traditional geisha, Sada began frequenting Western-style restaurants and disreputable establishments where she continued to engage in increasingly promiscuous behavior. Mm-hmm. According to Sada, the reason she didn't become a traditional geisha had less to do with the fact that she was intentionally rebelling against like every aspect of society at this point, and had more to do with the fact that her father had actually sold her to a brothel in Yokohama in July of 1922. So Sada maintained that her father asked a distant male relative named Inaba Mazataki to register Sada as a licensed sex worker, as women were not legally allowed to do so themselves without a state-registered intermediary. Inaba agreed to represent Sada as she navigated Japan's sexual underbelly, but instead of making her a sex worker right away, he placed her into a geisha trainee program because they needed to borrow 300 yen from a geisha house called Shunshin Min to pay for her sex worker license. So it's all confusing a little bit, but basically her brother said to her, I think you should consider becoming a geisha.
Yeah.
Her father said, yeah, good idea. She should do something like that. But actually, she should be a sex worker. Contacted a distant male relative because girls and women who wanted to become sex workers needed to have somebody represent them to get a license. Right.
Sponsor.
So basically, so her father arranged that. So Sada has obviously deep resentment towards her father because she's like, he wasn't helping me to become a reputable geisha. He was pushing me towards sex work.
Yeah.
And if this sounds confusing, it's because it is. Because as the ranks of geisha increasingly included women who resembled sex workers, the distinction between the two roles became muddled. Mm-hmm. Consequently, Sada soon transitioned into becoming a full-fledged geisha/sex worker after being employed by the manager of the geisha house. So she was in the geisha house because they had to pay the geisha house back for lending her money. So she sort of
$300, right?
300 yen. So she sort of became a geisha, but not the real quote unquote geisha of tradition, but rather the sex worker variety.
She was like an indentured servant.
Basically, it was not great. She started at the very bottom of the ranks within the okiya, which means the geisha house, as the other geisha were already well ahead of her in vocal and instrumental skills, and they were really training to be geisha, as well as conversational etiquette, parlor games, makeup techniques, and overall elegance and presentation. Customers tended to be more explicit now in their expectations of sexual favors with the lower ranking geisha, like Sada, because that's where the lines blurred. Mm-hmm. But Sada quickly realized that playing the pecker earned her far more than playing the shamisen ever would.
You're playing the pecker?
Yeah.
Did you write that?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
I mean, I'm a little not well. So in the end, she unofficially gravitated towards sex work. Yeah. She saw it was making more money.
Yeah.
Then about 5 years into her work as a sex worker / lower echelon geisha, an event occurred that officially marked Sada's transition from any type of geisha to becoming a licensed quote unquote prostitute in Osaka. Pop quiz.
Yeah.
What happened? A, she contracted syphilis. B, she inadvertently offended a general in the Imperial Japanese Army named Sada Abe. Or C, she was caught stealing from renowned American actor Charlie Chaplin.
What was the first one?
She contracted syphilis.
C.
No, made that up.
B?
Nope.
Yeah, I knew it wasn't B. There's way too much detail on that one.
Oh, good to know.
Yeah.
Filing that one away.
Fuck.
For the next episode.
She got syphilis.
She did. During a mandatory medical examination forced upon her by the manager of the geisha house, it was discovered that Sada, now 22 years old, had an open syphilitic lesion. And with that came her official change in both profession and behavior.
Oh.
People had begun to describe Sada as being hysterical. That's the word that was used back then. In a 1936 testimony provided by the former owner of one of the okiyas or geisha house, a man named Sakat Kinatro, quote,
like Tank Sinatra?
Yes.
That's like Tank Sinatra in another dimension.
That's amazing.
It came through a little weird, but it's the same. Can you say it again?
Sakat Kinatro. Very good. So this is what he had to say. I found her sitting on the floor of her room with her legs sprawled out in front of her and pulling on her hair, her eyes rolled back. She was striking the floor with her legs and showing herself all the way up her thighs. This struck me as strange, so I called Dr. Furushima, who then gave her an injection. The doctor said he thought it was hysteria, but added that she should quiet down within a couple of hours. He then went home. Soon after this, she became uncontrollable, but just as the doctor said, she quieted down in a couple of hours.
Okay.
Dr. Furushima formally diagnosed Sada with, quote, psychologically induced temporary excitement that caused her to experience fits of temporary derangement. That was her, official diagnosis.
Yeah.
Although to me, it's possible that Sada's hysteria could have been influenced by her syphilis, which can have severe neurological and psychiatric symptoms, including paranoia, mood swings, delusions, and other forms of psychological instability.
In addition to the fact that every time she looks, she's down another rung in life.
Exactly. Good for you for catching on to that at this point. As a professional sex worker now, Sada became increasingly involved in petty theft and gambling and even attempted to elope with one of her clients in a desperate bid to escape her circumstances. She contracted typhus, another bout of syphilis lesions, and was just desperate to extricate herself from the sex industry entirely. As a professional sex worker, Sada became increasingly involved in petty theft and gambling, and even attempted to elope with one of her clients in a desperate bid to escape her circumstances. She contracted typhus, another bout of syphilis, and was just desperate to extricate herself from the sex industry.
Yeah.
Which is why on February 1st, 1936, when Sada was offered a position as an apprentice maid at a restaurant called Yoshidaya in Tokyo, she jumped at the opportunity. This restaurant was a reputable establishment in Tokyo's Nakano ward and was owned by an attractive 40-year-old man and father named Koshizô Ishida.
Did you just try and say Ward?
I did. I'm saying these Japanese names. I'm slaying. I mean, a little credit. And Ward, I couldn't say.
In the ward. Influencers in the ward.
Okay.
Fun time.
The Japanese names. I mean, I'm smashing it.
Crushing it, yeah.
Shortly after Sada began working at the restaurant, Koshizô began flirting with her and making overt sexual advances, like pressing his body into hers, pressing his knee against her backside, and even biting her earlobes. What?
Totally normal, bro.
By mid-April, they started having sex with each other on the restaurant's premises with Koshizô's wife's approval.
What?
Apparently, they had an open relationship and she, too, was allowed to have sex with other people. While the relationship had begun as a passionate infatuation between Sada and Koshizô.
All this in 1936 Japan, huh?
Yeah.
Progressive as fuck.
Yeah, or just people being people.
Or just horny.
Exactly. It quickly evolved, certainly for Sada, into something far more intense. Beyond sex, Koshizô began to confide in Sada and share seemingly personal and private information that made her feel like he trusted her and saw her as an equal. She never had that before.
Yeah.
He even instructed Sada to speak to him more informally than she had been to increase their intimacy and deepen their connection. This was the first time that a man in Sada's life made her feel important. Yeah. Made her feel seen, made her feel like she had worth and meaning and value. And understandably, this made Sada fall well and truly in love with Koshizô. Pop quiz.
All right.
Beyond the emotional satisfaction Sada felt from being with a man who treated her in a way that hitherto she'd never experienced before.
Hitherto?
What else did Koshizô do that made Sada feel he was truly in love with her as well?
Let's hear.
A, he inserted shiitake mushrooms and sashimi inside her vagina before eating it with chopsticks.
That would make me feel fucking loved and accepted.
B, he carved his initials into Sada's thigh and then sucked her blood as it dripped out.
Okay.
C, he tattooed the image of Sada's exposed breasts above his heart.
A?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Better than me making it up.
Well, the other ones actually made sense.
Sucking the blood from a... Yeah, I guess.
You said made her feel like, you know, a part of something, like carving his initials in, and then what was the other one? A tattoo?
Yeah, of her exposed breasts.
Yeah, sticking mushrooms in her vagina is like...
And sashimi, but yeah.
And
so there's, in the...
You're blowing right by it. Like...
This is the problem when I'm so steeped in cases and research and like rehearse it.
Yeah.
By the time I deliver it, I'm like a little seasoned.
Okay, so as an outsider in this case, let me tell you how absolutely fucking batshit it is.
You know how I know it's batshit? Because I made it into a pop quiz. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, so I knew when I originally came across this content.
It's not even the fact that he's sticking the stuff up there. It's the fact that he was doing that and she was like, he really does love me.
Well, it is a little sad, right? Like what she's taking like...
Did he eat it?
Yes, he sure did.
Okay, so it's like...
It's intimate in her mind. I'm just saying, man. I'm just calling it like it is.
Okay.
They began taking trips together, partying for days on end, accumulating debt, and having nonstop sex while skipping food. Unless it penetrated her vagina first, it would seem.
Yeah.
Koshizô consumed Sada's every thought, becoming the center of her desires, the very essence of what she believed she needed to survive henceforth.
She became obsessed.
Yes.
Okay.
Her feelings for him intensified into a fervent, all-consuming obsession, a burning need to possess him entirely, to command every facet of their relationship and of his life. The mere thought of Koshizô being with someone else or slipping beyond her control was unbearable to Sada. She craved to own him, every part of him, for all eternity.
So open relationship, not really on the table there, even though she is a product of an open relationship.
Yeah, no, that's done for her. In her increasingly distorted and tormented mind, the only way to secure that absolute, unchallenged control, the only way to ensure that he would belong to her and no one else, was to effectively end him. As indicated by Sada herself, quote, "It wouldn't do for me to become his mistress or something like that. The only thing for me was to become his wife. But I thought that he wasn't the kind of man who would run away from his wife. And so I came to think all the more that I would kill him to the point that there just was no stopping me. And so a plan was officially hatched, especially after which of the following events happened.
Feel a pop quiz bubbling right underneath the surface.
PQ.
Oh, wow.
A, Sada discovered that she was pregnant.
Mm-hmm.
B, Koshizô told her that he and his wife were leaving the country to dodge debt collectors. C, Sada was inspired by a play she saw in which a geisha hid a large knife in her kimono before attacking her lover.
Okay, so a plan was hatched.
Right, to keep him forever.
Yeah, I'm blanking on all of these right now.
She discovered she was pregnant. Or Koshizô said that he was leaving the country. So all...
Oh, got it. Okay, I'm very lost. The wording is like difficult for me for some reason.
Sorry, that's my bad.
So something happened that made her hatch a plan.
Yeah, basically. She knew what she wanted to do, and then one of these things happened that solidified the fact that she had to kill him.
Okay. B?
No.
C?
Yes. On May 9th, 1936, Sada went to see a play called Shinsaku Tsusoya Monogatari.
Oh my God.
Uh-huh.
How the hell did you just do that?
I don't know. Which translates to mean New Tales of the Erotic.
Do it again.
Fine. Shinsaku Tsusoya Monogatari.
Wow, I'm blown away.
I should just walk out. Like I should leave on a high.
Yeah.
I'm not going to do that.
Okay.
While watching the scenes of this play unfold, of a geisha planning to kill her lover with a kitchen knife that she hid in her kimono, all Sada could think about was purchasing a large knife with which to tease Koshizô. On May 12th, Sada purchased a carving knife at a hardware store before meeting Koshizô at an inn in Nakano. Then, at 8:30 p.m., after Koshizô informed Sada that he was indeed in love with her, Sada pulled out the knife. She then repeated a line that she heard in the play, saying, "Kichi, you wore that kimono just to please one of your favorite customers. You bastard, I'd kill you for that." But she didn't kill him. And for the next few days, she toyed with him, planting the seed of what was going to come, but without him ever catching on to the true danger that he was actually in.
Yeah.
On May 16th, Sada messed with him yet again and pulled out the knife, this time holding it against Koshizô's penis, telling him that she would make sure he never fooled around with other women.
So scary.
But he just laughed, and again, nothing happened.
How did they get to spend that much time together?
Well, his wife knew that he was messing around.
Got it.
Then, during sex, Sada tied her obi around Koshizô's neck and indicated that she enjoyed the way his penis got engorged when she did that. So, Koshizô continued to allow it until his eyes turned bloodshot and swollen, a red line around his neck formed, and his penis went limp.
Wait, hold on a second. She tied the obi, which is the belt that they wear that would indicate rank when tied in a certain way.
Yo, I don't know how you're not like a neuroscientist. Like, seriously.
I'm who the neuroscientist studies, okay?
It's like, you smart.
So she tied it around his neck,
mm-hmm.
and his penis got engorged.
And she liked that.
Which is a weird way to say he got hard, or aroused even, to be clinical about it.
I think it got extra.
From wrapping a...
Because she always had his erect penis to play with. This was like more... This was more.
Oh, man. Okay. Right. Got it. Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
You got nothing?
I just want to move on.
Okay.
Thinking about this guy's dick too much.
It's really time to move on. Finally, Sada suggested to Koshizô that they both simultaneously die by suicide, a sort of Romeo and Juliet pact that would ensure their love remained eternal and untainted by the outside world, a final act of devotion where their souls could be bound together forever in death. When Koshizô declined, Sada knew with absolute certainty that she would need to take his life in order to make him hers forever. So she was like escalating here with the knife. That was kind of my point, and the choking and all that, right?
But she was gaining trust.
Yeah, she was. Good point. And so at about 2 a.m. on May 18th, 1936, Sada wrapped her peach-colored obi around Koshizô's neck as he slept and pulled, tears streaming down her face as she whispered, "Forgive me." Koshizô's hands shook violently. His body writhed in agonizing protest. But Sada held firm, driven by the twisted belief that this was the only way to keep him hers forever. Once Sada was certain that her lover was dead, she helped herself to a bottle of sake to calm her nerves. Although, according to her own testimony following this gruesome murder, there were fewer nerves than one might expect or hope to see. Because according to Sada, she felt, quote, totally at ease, as if a heavy burden had been lifted from my shoulders, and I felt a sense of clarity.
Yeah, totally.
Heavy. She lied next to Koshizô's lifeless body for several hours, unwilling to part from him, her mind consumed by a deep, possessive love turned dark and deadly obsession.
Question for you. Sorry, so sorry.
It's okay.
Reminds me of, by the way, I had to put my dog to sleep last week. I stayed with him for a while.
Of course.
After he died.
Yeah.
Do you remember how long you stayed with your dog?
A long ass time.
Did you just hold him?
I held him and cried and felt like kissing, yes.
Yeah.
When his hair was coming out because he shed in my hand, I was like putting it in my pocket. I couldn't part with him.
It's actually like not a terrible idea.
No, it isn't. I have it in a little box at home.
I want to see what else is in that box.
That's it. All right, that's it. But yes, it's devastating. And yes, Dave and I both stayed with him for a long time. I physically couldn't pull myself away from him.
Yeah. Okay,
sorry that just happened to you. But it was then that Sada decided she wanted to keep a physical part of Koshizô with her forever.
Just like you.
Fuck. As I was saying it. As the words were coming out of my mouth, I was like, abort.
Which is not weird at all. So
I feel like I'm beat red. Like this was alarming.
Your whole body's engorged right now.
So she wanted to keep a physical part of Koshizô with her forever, which I relate to.
Understandable.
In a more, less homicidal setting.
Yeah, okay.
We'll say.
I was waiting for you to try and just make it not weird for you, but weird for her.
I think I did that.
Yeah.
So she wanted to take...
Also, sorry, you didn't kill your dog.
No, you fuck. I
because
definitely...
you didn't want him to go be walked by anybody else.
No, but I did want to go with him.
To be dead?
Yeah. I didn't think my heart was going to beat after his heart stopped. Somehow it did.
Okay, sorry, let's get back.
So she wanted to take a part of him, the part that symbolized the most vivid and passionate memories of their time together. Coupled with the twisted desire to ensure that no other woman could ever have what she considered hers alone, still,
I was dead.
Sada made the chilling decision to chop off Koshizô's penis and testicles and to keep them with her forever stuffed inside her kimono. Oof. Additionally, Sada also carved her name into his dead flesh using her knife and then used his blood to further scribble on his body.
The police get there, they're like, yo, who did this? Oh, forget it. It's
she signed her name.
Sada.
It's autographed. Finally, Sada put on Koshizô's undergarments, got dressed, stuffed the severed genitals of her dead lover into her kimono, and left the inn at about 8 a.m. the next morning. Pop quiz. Sometimes these are so fucking poorly timed, man. What happened after Sada left?
Okay.
A, the gravity of the situation hit her, causing her to abandon the penis and testicles at the police station.
Okay.
B, Sada met with another one of her lovers and had sex with him in Tokyo. C, Sada eventually felt that simply carrying his penis wasn't enough to maintain their connection, so she cooked it at his restaurant and ate it.
One of these happened for real.
Indeed.
So she dropped it off at the police station out of guilt, had sex with somebody else, or cooked it and ate it. B.
Yes. Yeah. Can you tell me why you chose
Absolutely not.
Okay.
But I was shocked to even hear the fact that she might have somebody else.
Yeah. Well, she kind of did. She met this other person before she ever even met Koshizô. But yeah, she did have this other person kind of always in the wings. Incredibly, after leaving one lover's lifeless body behind, she went to almost immediately indulge in the flesh of another. But it was still Koshizô that she continued to long for emotionally and sexually, which is why she decided to remove the penis from the paper wrapping that she placed around it and inserted the penis into her mouth.
Oh, wow.
Then she attempted to have vaginal intercourse with it.
That's fucking crazy.
That's bad. That's rough.
That's,
you need a minute.
Yeah. Oh, hold on.
Yep.
Lorena Bobbitt just drove away and threw it into a field.
She put it in a hot dog box first, but yeah.
But...
Well, they had very different motives behind the castrations.
Yes.
So
Yeah, true.
Remember why she took the part of him that symbolized what she was happiest with, which was like their passionate love.
Yeah. I'm sure she was always thrilled with his flaccid penis.
Flaccid,
that was a big
detached piece. But any piece, fucking didn't mean to say that word twice. But any
penis.
But any piece or sense of twisted fulfillment that Sada felt by ending her lover's life and maintaining possession of his genitals was short-lived.
Wow. So I thought you said any piece instead of anyway.
No.
And then I thought you said any piece, meaning any peace. But you meant peace, a sense of calm.
Yes, I did. Yeah. Oh, wow.
Although it was unintentional. It was just me. Maybe hold on. Make it at me.
Nope. You already directed it at me. It's mine. The next day, a maid at the tea house or the inn where the murder happened discovered Koshizô's strangled, mutilated, and bloody corpse in the room. On May 20th, 1936, the gruesome story of what befell that poor man made headlines on page 2 of the Tokyo Asahi, right next to a photograph of Adolf Hitler receiving an antique Japanese sword.
What the fuck?
I'm glad that blew your mind because it did for me too, which is why I put it in. Newspapers and media speculated that this crime was a historical first in modern Japanese history. It was like a very big deal to score a page 2 spot in a newspaper. I mean, what
about page 1?
I guess I'm saying the beginning of a newspaper. It was like a very prime real estate, right?
Yeah, and in this culture where the men are in charge, this happened? Yeah.
Law enforcement across multiple precincts in Tokyo quickly mobilized and launched an intense search for Sada, who had been identified by tea house employees as being the last person seen with Koshizô in the privacy of their room. At this point, too, also a forensic psychologist named Kaneko Junji with the Metropolitan Police Department outlined 4 possible motives for the crime, which he believed was motivated by sexual deviancy. Here's the 4 points. 1, the perpetrator was a fetishist who wanted to possess a real penis. 2, the perpetrator was exacting revenge upon her victim. 3, there was a love triangle in which the perpetrator sought to prove her loyalty to the other lover by killing and mutilating this one. 4, the murder was driven by a sense of anger and hatred with the intent to symbolically castrate all men.
5th point, she was just really into him.
Dr. Junji also went on to explain how the fate of the missing penis would explain the motive. And so the search for Sada continued. And as the police began to close in on her, Sada concocted a desperate plan. This was her plan. She would make her way to Mount Ikoma and end her life by jumping from a cliff, clutching the severed genitals of Koshizô in her hands as she plunged to her death.
Using it as a parachute.
Yet, with Osaka teeming with law enforcement officers, especially the train stations, her plan was thwarted at every turn.
Yeah.
Unable to flee, Sada instead rented a room at the Shinagawakan Inn where she took a bath, drank sake, and hired a masseuse.
Just chilling.
Then, in what she expected to be her final hours alive, because she still kind of figured she was going to execute on this plan, Sada penned 3 farewell letters. 1 to her lover, Professor Omaya, who's the lover that she had sex with right after killing. 1 to a friend, and 1 to the man she had slain, Koshizô himself. But as Sada prepared for her final act, a knock echoed through the room at approximately 5:30 p.m. on May 20th, 1936. And sure enough, it was the law catching up to her. The authorities successfully tracked Sada down, and with that knock, her attempt to escape life and justice came to an abrupt end. And Sada Abe, wearing a nightgown and an eye mask, was arrested. But before leaving with the police officer, Sada got dressed, did her makeup, and grabbed a small package in brown paper wrapping. She went with the officers to Metropolitan Police Headquarters, not just willingly, but with a smile on her face.
Yeah.
Her demeanor conveyed a sense of relief rather than anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, she slept for the first 3 days of her time in jail while awaiting trial, which speaks volumes about her state of mind, right? Suggesting this profound sense of closure, maybe, as if the act she committed had finally brought some sort of peace, an end to like the madness.
Yeah.
It wasn't until her interrogation began that Officer Adachi Umezo realized that the forensic psychologist's 4 potential theories of motive had completely missed the mark entirely.
Yeah.
This was not a case of jealousy, fetishism, revenge, or a twisted attempt to prove loyalty in a love triangle. The truth was far more complex and rooted, albeit twistedly, in what she believed to be love. Of course, we know it's way more than that, and that it was a complex and toxic mix of love, obsession, and a desire for control, intensified by her troubled psychological state, which we will explore in more detail in 2 seconds. But first, the trial. And let me tell you, Sada's trial, which began on November 25th, 1936, was quite the sensation, as Japan had not seen a crime of this kind of brutality maybe ever, by the way they were behaving. 200 spectators packed the courtroom, many of whom were women. During Sada's month-long interrogation before the trial, 2 official records were made public. One consisted of 46 questions asked over 6 separate meetings with an interrogator, and the other was an account of Sada's life and the crime that she committed, narrated in her own voice. The latter has since served as the basis for numerous books, movies, and plays. In fact, it wound up becoming a national bestseller in 1936. At her trial, authorities maintained that her high sex drive and the fact that she admitted to enjoying giving oral sex reflected a type of pathology, and that was both nymphomania and hysteria. This is like serious. This is what they're like saying.
So wait, because of what? Why did they give her that diagnosis?
Because she had a high sex drive and she admitted to liking giving oral sex, and to them that was like a pathology. And the act of murder was rooted in Sada's sexual appetite. The state's official position in terms of motive was that Sada's physical sexual desire, rather than a psychological issue, was the basis for her wish to, quote unquote, monopolize Koshizô.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of their psychological assessment, they indicated that she suffered both mental and physical hysteria, and as I said, extreme nymphomania.
Yeah.
Thus, she did not suffer from temporary insanity or a condition of mental weakness known as shinshin kojaku in Japanese. In 1936, Japan's legal system did not include jury trials, as it was based on European models, particularly the German and French systems, where professional judges determined both the facts and the punishment in criminal cases. Jury trials were only introduced in Japan much later with the Saibon-in system in 2009.
Wow.
Therefore, Sada Abe's trial was conducted solely by 3 professional male judges, as was standard practice at the time. But listen to this. This is nuts. One of the judges, Hosoya, was concerned that the graphic narrative provided by Sada might sexually arouse the other 2 judges during trial because he found himself sexually aroused reviewing the material.
Is anybody gonna match my freak?
Nice. So, to avoid any potential distractions, he ensured that the trial did not begin during the time when the judges' wives were menstruating, as this would limit the judges' ability to relieve themselves.
Very thoughtful.
It's bonkers. Additionally, the court imposed a rule prohibiting the use of the word penis, instead requiring her and everyone else to say extremity.
I mean, yeah, obviously saying penis is worse than the crime itself.
Right.
Yeah.
And you can't have the trial when the wives have their periods because they're not going to be able to have sex and they're going to be all pent up.
Yeah, they made it so that they couldn't say penis during the trial. They had to say wiener.
Extremity. It's just so wild.
Yeah, people's priorities and their focus is like, dude, get a grip.
Yeah, and it was just such a different time, you know?
People still do that shit. They're focused on the wrong thing.
Oh, well, yes, yes. After a brief trial of less than 1 month, Sada Abe was found guilty of murder and mutilation of a corpse. And on December 21st, 1936, she was sentenced to just 6 years in the Tochigi Women's Prison, but was released after serving only 5. Her sentence is believed to have been quite lenient as a result of her confessing and as a result of finding her to have the mental handicap of suffering from a condition of mental weakness.
And nymphomania.
Right. So they rejected the prosecution's position that she wasn't suffering from a mental weakness at the time of the murder. They also added that Sada had also experienced sadism and fetishism as well. And this was Judge Hosoya's official statement. The defendant displays the characteristics of mental and physical hysteria and a marked sexual sensitivity, in parens, nymphomania. Hence, at the time of the crime that the defendant had, as I have noted, an abnormality of character and oversensitivity to sex. On the basis of this, for a week before the crime, she immersed herself in a life of extreme sexuality that paralyzed her moral sensibility. Because that's when she was like fucking about with the knife and the erotic asphyxiation and all that.
Did you say in parens?
Yes, I did.
Is that a word?
Parentheses. Yeah, it's a shortened way to say parentheses, parens.
That other people know about?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know about that.
Yeah.
Parentheses is a sick, wild name for what it is.
It is. Hence, parens.
It sounds like a
medical condition?
A theorem or something, yeah. The parenthetical theorem. It's like, no, dude, it's just like a different part of a sentence.
It just means it's a little inner side thought, maybe.
Yeah. Yeah, it sounds cool as hell.
So during her time incarcerated, Sada found comfort in Buddhism and was a model prisoner following a bit of a rocky beginning. When she was released, again, after only 5 years, she entered witness protection, became a professional mistress to someone she referred to as Y, and published a memoir. Not Memoirs of a Geisha.
Oh, I was just about to say.
No, I saw that. Nope. Additionally, in or around 1946, times were a-changin'. Japanese women finally received the vote, a clear marker of the changing times. And this new climate was more open to regarding Sada as a victim, both of male exploitation and of her own shattered mind. And she was recast as a feminist hero of sort.
Nice.
In 1946, the writer Ango Sakaguchi interviewed Sada and presented her as an authority on both sexuality and freedom. In 1947, Ichiro Kumaro's publication titled The Erotic Confessions of Sada Abe became a national bestseller with over 100,000 copies sold. Sada lived out her days in the countryside north of Tokyo, but could not escape being discovered by the media and treated as a sort of celebrity. She therefore decided to embrace it and joined a theater group that toured the country. Sada also did one other thing.
Pop quiz.
Yeah, we're leaving off on this, sort of.
Okay.
What else did Sada do aside from joining a theater group? A, open a local all-girls school that centered on teaching children how to dance and play music. B, open a small restaurant specializing in stuffed rice balls. C, open a boutique selling handmade kimonos.
Rice balls?
Yeah.
Kimonos.
Oh.
Or what was the first one?
Or opened up an all-girls school.
B.
I forgot that you repeated back, so I thought you were giving me your answer.
Can I be dead honest with you?
Yeah.
That was my guess.
I believe you.
Okay.
She opened a small restaurant of her own that specialized in stuffed rice balls called onigiri. But after that, Sada's final days remain a mystery. Some reporters speculate that she died by suicide. Others say that she became a nun and lived out her years inside of a Buddhist temple. While she spent her final years living in obscurity, she is said to have died in Tokyo of natural causes on December 28th, 1971, at the age of 65.
Yeah, why do they need to know where she is till she dies? Like, leave her alone.
I agree.
You need to keep track on fucking everybody for her.
Yeah.
Keep tabs.
Mm-hmm. That's the case.
Of Sada Abe.
Sada D.
Sada.
Mm-hmm.
Sada Abe.
Yes.
And Katsu.
Yes. Do you remember my alliteration in the beginning so that we can call this case what I've called it?
Killing and castration.
The kimono-wearing killer castrator and the grotesquely gory geisha.
That's too long.
Well, no, it's two separate ones. Oh. So, yeah, that's the case.
That was like a history lesson.
Yeah, it's a different kind of case in that sense, I feel like. I mean, we always provide a background, but I just think she was a victim of her time, of gender in place, of society, of her trauma, of lacking support that she deserved and needed. She also dealt with all those physical conditions that I believe had psychological effects on her as well.
But it doesn't excuse it.
No. Nothing excuses the act, but it helps to explain it.
Because I felt even you there for a second were like, hey, she fucking,
No.
She got...
There's no way. Not even close. No. Yeah. I just meant to say that, like, these stories are tragic, even though you can put your finger on so many reasons and so many contributing factors. And again, I always aim to understand where people are coming from. And that's all I'm trying to do here with this discussion, but definitely not excusing it. It's
funny because I was talking to this guy at the gym, Dino, ripped, by the way. I don't know why. I just volunteered that. He is, though.
What's up, Dino?
He is, yeah. He eats boiled chicken only.
Cool.
Yeah. So I was telling him about the Gary Plauché case that I did on Psychopedia. And I was like, it's weird because if you said beforehand, hey, this guy molested children, should the child, let's say the child grows up, be allowed to kill him? You'd be like, no, of course not.
Right.
But if the child, it's kind of like forgiveness versus permission thing. If the child grew up and killed the guy, you'd be like, should he go to jail? I don't know.
This is where it gets tough. And this is why,
it's like Gary Plauché blew the fucking guy's head off. No jail time.
On camera, right.
Yeah. It's like there are some.
And he's a hero. He's looked at not just as it's excused. You're more than that.
Yeah.
You're a hero.
I just feel like if there's no doubt at all, there are some situations where the problem is if there's doubt. Oh, I was talking to him about the Menendez brothers thing.
Yeah.
Because you had mentioned something about it. I
made a video.
Allegedly, this, that, whatever. Like if it's not 100%, then it's tough. But that Gary Plauché case thing was 100% happening.
Right. But that's why there's trials and juries. You're getting a consensus. You're getting like a majority ruling on do you think this is real? And if so, that's why there's also, in America anyway, levels of crimes.
Yeah, beforehand, I don't agree with vigilantism. But if something happens, I can kind of see like where, okay, I mean, I may have done the same thing.
It gets dicey. It does. Yeah, interesting case though, nonetheless. And obviously, Koshizô certainly did not deserve to meet his end in such a gruesome, horrific way.
No.
So I hope he rests in peace. And I was wondering if you have a Tank's Titty for us.
Obviously, I have a Tank's Titty.
Bring it on.
Tank's Titty today is one of...
Alliteration king.
Nice. Tank's Titty today. Today, Junior. Is the first note that I wrote down in my therapy notes.
Like ever?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. How far back does that go?
Oh, no, I have no idea.
Okay.
Every time you update it, the date changes on the note. So
Got it.
I have no idea. He said to me, like, all addictive behavior is avoidant. All of it.
Okay.
So whether you are running to eat, sex, gamble, work, drugs, alcohol, attention, it's all in a pursuit of just not being right now. Just don't want to be right now.
An escape, yeah.
Yes. Mm-hmm. So this is for you, by the way, okay? It's for you. It's for you. It's for you.
And for you.
This is one of the most empowering things I've ever written down. You are not a thing that needs to be escaped from.
Mm-hmm.
You're just not.
You need to be somebody you actually give attention to and work on.
the next note that I wrote was about validation needs to come from self, but that would be like a later thanks Diddy. But like just a reminder that you are not something that needs to be escaped from. You can be who you are. It might even be uncomfortable, but it's only uncomfortable. So like they say the pain is in the resistance, right? Meaning if you're like just, you're at a brick wall and you're pushing on it as hard as you can, it's going to suck. When you let go, that's when you'll feel some relief. But like, and I know people like having control. I like having control, although I focus way more on the effort than I do on the outcome right now, or just in general. But yeah, just like try being who you are, devoid of anything. The phone, don't even like look at a wall and focus on the wall. Just like try be. And I'm not saying for like any extended period of time. I think that's something people get confused also, because I used to. I'm talking about literally 1.5 seconds of just nothing, like no distractions whatsoever.
A nothing state of mind.
You're nothing that needs to be escaped from.
Right.
Yeah.
Are people escaping themselves when they turn to any one of those vices you mentioned, or are they escaping something that they're having a difficult time processing? You know what I mean?
Ultimately, always yes. They're escaping themselves, because I was just talking about this the other day with someone. I remember the first time that I was ever dealing with something emotionally, and I was like, fuck this, man. I'm going out to the bar. But it's not because I didn't want to deal with what was happening. It's because I didn't want to deal with how I was dealing with what was happening.
Right.
If I had been like a little bit healthier or had a better support system or anything like that at that time, I could have called somebody and been like, hey, this is like, I'm going through this thing and it's a little tough. Can I get your ear on it? You know?
I think too that applies for people who do it in the extreme. Like, I think there are times when, correct me if I'm wrong. I'm not going against what you're saying at all. I'm just trying to like, because we're totally different people, right? Like you struggle with addiction. I don't. I have other things that I struggle with, but so for me, I'm not constantly running to alcohol by any means. I'm thinking back to this one incident. This is why Dave and I talk about it all the time. He came home from work when the kids were much younger, and I was sitting in the window with my hood up. I was just wearing a hoodie, my hood up, mascara dripping down my face. I was crying. I was in the thick of like a difficult parenting night.
Yeah.
And he came home and he opened a bottle of wine. And he gave me a glass of wine, but I guess we talked about my day and why I was crying.
That was the more important part.
That was the more. I was going to say I had a glass of wine. I don't typically run to alcohol, but it did take me out of my own headspace, which was, until that moment, a tough place to be in.
I would say the wine was symbolic. The real benefit you got was from the time spent
talking about it. Yeah. I realized that as I was explaining it.
And there are things. So like, I have 3 toolboxes in my life. One of them is alcohol, drugs, and suicide. That toolbox does still exist, but it's shut. It's duct taped, chained somewhere. I kind of could probably remember if I had to, but there's so many barriers in the way for me to, like, I can't just go reach for that easily.
Yeah, thank God.
Then in this middle toolbox, I have watching a movie 30 times, overeating, sex, spending money, just like that little low-grade avoidance and escape. And then in the third toolbox, I have talking to friends, praying, writing, reading, meetings, therapy, meditation, stuff that like really makes me feel alive.
Yeah.
So when I was in early recovery, I couldn't open this toolbox at all. But I would watch a movie 50 times. And feel zero guilt about it. So I think that my recovery or my progress maturing was going from living in this toolbox and visiting this one to living in this one and visiting this one. This one is not shut. I don't think it should be shut.
I don't think it can be shut. Like you're a human being.
Yeah.
You're imperfect by nature.
Yeah. But I just visit it much less frequently because I'm not something that needs to be escaped from. And I know that.
And what you escape to in toolbox number 2 is far less, obviously, destructive than anything that ever existed in toolbox 1.
Yeah, 100%.
Right.
I mean,
question, totally serious. I swear to God, I'm not like fucking with you right now.
Yeah.
If you're living in toolbox 3,
which is the good one,
and and you're reaching into toolbox 2, and you're doing something maybe not great.
Yeah.
you're not doing the best you can with the tools you have because you're reaching in and grabbing other ones.
So, did we talk about this on the other podcast?
We might have, because this is sounding familiar.
So, not doing the best with the tools you have, I've figured out, because what?
No, you're right. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Not doing the best with the tools that you have is, in my opinion, ultimately about forgiveness of self and others. Like, I just have to assume that whoever was doing the best with the tools they had, I can't go back and go, no, they could have done better. Like, if they could have, they would have.
Yeah.
So it's ultimately for me about forgiveness.
Right.
But can
you only forgive somebody if you feel that they did their best with the tools they had?
It helps.
Can't you forgive somebody? Yeah, because
it would be,
that's where the real forgiveness is. If they deliberately made a decision and it wasn't a good one, that's where the forgiveness is.
Even that, I think they're doing the best with the tools.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's not. I'm not being belligerent. It's just the way that I feel. So if you dip into toolbox middle with the fun stuff, this is 3 seconds after getting banged in the face with a ball.
That happened to me. Line drive to my head.
No, dude, I'm talking about I Heart Huckabees.
Oh.
This is...
I mean, you should have got a big giant red ball.
Inevitably, you will always get drawn back into the human suffering.
Life is cruel.
Life is cruel, but it's not.
There are no coincidences.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
I don't think she said that. That sounds like something...
sound like...
Yeah. But yeah, to live here is to essentially be enlightened to the point where you're not even a human being anymore. So
I have no interest in that perfection.
I like being here 90% of the time.
I like knowing I can be in there.
Yeah.
But, I don't know, laughing with the sinners sometimes rather than, crying with the saints.
Yeah. So thank you guys for listening to... Thanks for sitting through this heavy Tank's titty. That's funny. You got a big old heavy Tank's titty.
Jeez. God.
Big old bag of sand.
Are you quite done?
I don't know.
I know nobody does.
Yeah. But I would like to thank you guys for listening. If you made it this far, you're a real one, and we appreciate you. And I'm also learning that there are way more people here at the end than I thought originally.
Yes, I know, and that's wonderful.
So to all of you listening, thank you for sticking around. I legitimately thought it was maybe 2 or 3 people.
Legitimately.
Yeah. Well, of course you said it wrong. It's my word.
Yeah.
Sorry. Thank you guys so much for listening. We'll see you guys next week.
Thank you for listening.
Bye.
Bye.